For those that don't know me, Al Williams, it's been too long since I've been out of CAP or away from CAP. My last job required me to be on the road 2 or 3 weeks out of the month, so I had to give something up. But we're going to keep the B-52 flying until 2050 because they gave me $1 billion a year. So I had a lot of fun. For those that don't know me otherwise, I'm an old college professor in my spare time, and I believe in very much in interaction. What we're going to talk about today, personal minimums, a quick and dirty on runway safety that I stole from the FAA several years ago. I hadn't had a chance to update it yet, but it's still applicable. And then something I call the good, the bad, the ugly. So a couple of videos I have, and depending how long Doc wants to run, we can show one, or I've got 3 lined up, however long we go. And taking a look at those videos and say, what did the person do right? What did he do wrong? What did he really screw up? Or she, as the case may be. I happen to include everybody because there is one video with a lady in there. I can tell you from watching Scotty, that glider shot, several years ago there was a 1-star general at Air Combat Command. Had a Cessna, it was either a 210 or a 206. He came in on a runway, left base to the runway he was coming in on. Winds were about 40 knots from the left front quarter. He overshot centerline. And I showed a picture of the accident aircraft to one of my friends. He said, well, it looks like he did okay. It was straight 90 degrees into the ground until I explained to him that this was a 6-passenger airplane, and what he was seeing was row 2 and row 3 because row 1 was somewhere down in the mud. Not a good ending for he, his wife, or the puppy dogs that were with him. Okay, so personal minimums, who do they apply to? What are they? Why do we have them? And do we ever change our personal minimums? Am I in somebody's way standing here? Do I need to go over this way? Okay. Who do personal minimums apply to? Everybody. Okay, so VFR pilot? Really? VFR pilot needs personal minimums?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay. How about, well, IFR pilot? Like I said, I met my personal minimums today, so 100-hour PIC? How many 100-hour PICs do you think have personal minimums? Well, what they should have, but how many really have them? Who can remember back in the dark ages? Of course, they go away as you get more time, right? 500-hour PIC doesn't need them anymore, and for sure, by the time you reach that 2,000-hour PIC, you don't need personal minimums anymore. They're not applicable. So, who in here, without embarrassment, raise their hand and say, I have personal minimums? Sure. Good. Well, and that's good. And if I could have been sure that the ceiling, by the time we got here, I would have been in here too. But I wasn't going to, we knew we needed to get here, and we couldn't risk hoping that it was going to lift. Because, anybody know what the TAF said last night for Alexandria today? VFR. Well, the last one I saw said 2,500 broken and 8 miles visibility. And when I got up this morning, it was 800 broken with 10 miles visibility. I said, okay, no problem. And by the time I got to the airport and got my airplane out of the hangar, it was down to 400 feet. And then the visibility started dropping. And that's when we had to make the decision. So yeah, having those minimums is important as a safety factor. Okay, so what are they? They're boundaries. How do I keep myself inside the box and not get near that edge where I'm going to put the airplane in the trees or a bad landing or run out of gas somewhere? I mean, I was talking with Doc how many times I've seen accident reports where the person did 3 and 4 approaches to the same airport and ran himself out of gas when he could have just gone somewhere else. Because, and that's why, cost is likely to be too high to continue if you don't keep those minimums. Biggest thing I see for it, decision making at ground speed 0. I get rid of that get-there-itis. How many people here fly cross-country like I do all the time out to Albuquerque or up to the East Coast? I mean, truly not just inside the state. Okay? Where do you go normally? Just pick.
Florida, Texas.
Okay. How many routes? Okay, we're in Florida.
So, Panama City, nice. Well, Crestview.
Okay, I get. Yeah. Okay. How many? Do you have one route that you fly going into Crestview? 2, 3?
2, at least.
Okay. my personal minimum is anytime I'm going to go someplace on a fairly regular basis, I have a minimum of 3 routes. And my sister's place over in North Carolina, I have 5 routes. Why? Because I can sit there now at ground speed 0, pick the route that makes the most sense. If I need fuel somewhere, I have my fuel stop already picked out. And it forces me when I get up in the morning and check the TAF, if none of those routes are going to work today, it makes me say, okay, why am I going? If at ground speed 0 I picked all these different routes out, does it make sense? I mean, I can get to South Carolina if I fly up to Chicago, go over to Pittsburgh, and come on down. Not very productive, be a great flying hours, but if none of those routes I have picked works, it gives me pause to say, is this really a smart thing to do today? And an honest assessment. What am I capable of? Can I really do this today? So why do we have them? Again, realization we're not Bob Hoover. I used to say Chuck Yeager. I had the privilege of meeting Chuck Yeager, and I actually got a log endorsement from Bob Hoover. I'll take Bob Hoover any day of the week. He was a consummate gentleman. Great pilot, too. Anybody that's seen his act, or had the privilege of seeing his act, shutting down both engines, doing a barrel roll, doing a loop, and landing and taxiing to the spot he took off from, all with the engine shut down. Talk about energy management and AOA. So, stops you blindly leaking off. Again, if I look at my routes and none of those routes are going to work today, should I go today? I'm not going to just hop in the airplane and go. And some pre-can limits. Making sure, again, at ground speed 0, I thought about what is the smart thing to do, not with the get there-itis. So, do we ever change them? Yes. Sure. What things make us change them? Okay, good. That happens to be my first thing. Currency. And to me, currency is, am I missing big things when I'm flying? I took off the one day, VFR, hadn't flown my airplane in a while, and I'm looking at the display, and there's no magenta line on there. Oh my God, what happened? Okay, fly the airplane first, you're not current in the airplane, get up, get leveled off, and found out, somehow a button had gotten bumped that took the magic magenta line on and off the display. Another thing, okay, currency is one thing, what's another thing? Sure, whoop. Too many bumps. Proficiency, sure. And that's what I call missing the little things. I went out the other day to shoot some instrument approaches and haven't been flying a lot lately, or as much as I want. Of course, that would be every day. And as I'm climbing on out, I got my airspeed trimmed up, GPS is going, autopilot's going the way I want. And I looked over, and all 3 of my stopwatches were sitting at 0. I have one stopwatch for fuel, I have one stopwatch for total leg time, and I got one stopwatch for total flight time. And I always hit them just as I cross the hold line, just so I have a backup to a backup to a backup. Anybody that knows me, I'm a paranoid individual, and I wouldn't be if the world wasn't against me. But it, to me, was part of my proficiency. I had missed something that should be ingrained in me by now. I've only got, about 3,000 hours in my airplane, and I still missed it. One of the reasons for checklists. One of the things, I'll be honest, where's our Stanival officer left? It bothered me when I started flying again. I hopped in 363, and at the very bottom of the checklist says, the pilot is responsible for ensuring this checklist is correct. Excuse me? It's not written by the wing, it's not written by the pilot. And by the way, in 363 I found at least 2 errors in the checklist from National. Minor technicality. Familiar with the aircraft? Or is it similar? What equipment does it have? We were just talking about AOA indicators. I have one in my Bonanza. They're great. But if all of a sudden you're counting on that equipment being available, and it's not, or, okay, we have a lot of 172s in the wing. I remember back right after I got my private pilot certificate back last millennium, they didn't have the airplane I normally flew when I was getting my pilot certificate. They had another 172 there. So no problem. I hopped in it, pre-flight it, away I went. I was just going to do pattern work, so no big deal. So I turned base to final, slapped the flap indicator in, and the airplane went. That's when I found out that some models of Cessnas have 40 degrees of flaps. Yeah, real eye-opening experience to go, ooh, guess I should have looked at the POH a little more closely when I pre-flighted the airplane and everything. But again, similar enough? Yeah, I'll take it. But what does that do to our personal minimums? And, of course, aircraft capability. What's on the aircraft? You know, my airplane, I fly with ADS-B in and out, UAT, I fly with XM satellite weather, got all the bells and whistles, got a complete glass cockpit in a 1949 airplane. But that's what I'm used to flying with. Now I hop in a six-pack, and nutty as it sounds, most of you probably have seen it now as we're getting more and more glass in the cockpits. You actually have to fly more often with a glass cockpit airplane. Yeah, you got all this information there, but managing that information, and like I said earlier, remembering to push the button so the magenta line magically appears, means you actually have to fly, in my opinion, more often than you fly with a six-pack. And you just go from six-pack to six-pack, they all look the same, no big deal. One of the first things when a student calls me up and says, hey, I want you to help instruct me, especially if it's an instrument student, what equipment you got on board? It's amazing, I fly with Avidyne, I fly with Garmin 430, the guys 650s, and all of them work just a little differently. So making sure that I don't look like a total idiot fumbling with the buttons, and it'll take me a week before I'm ready to fly with that guy till I get into the books and find out how does that piece of equipment work, and making sure it works. I mean, transponder. Okay, everybody has transponder aboard the airplane. ADS-B, ADS in and out, or just out? Out? Okay, I hope out. Nod your heads, yeah. I hope all the CAP airplanes should be ADS-B out since the mandate was 2 years ago. But I fly with ADS-B in and out. So I'm used to seeing that display of traffic, that display of weather across 4 screens. Difference in aircraft capability. And what your personal minimums are with your fully equipped used airplane you're proficient with and you're used to, your personal minimums when you hop in an airplane, this is the first time you've seen that particular airplane, or isn't that well equipped, you do adjust your personal minimums a little bit. And most importantly, maybe, how do you feel today? The I am safe and all the other acronyms I can never remember that the FAA puts out. I remember the I am safe, but are you up to it today? Do you really feel like this is a good use of your time? Biggest thing, never on the day of a flight. Don't go changing your personal minimums. That leads to get-there-itis. It'll torque you off sometimes because you go, if I just lower those minimums 100 feet, I can make it. But there again, now we're back to the get-there-itis. If it was good enough at ground speed 0, those minimums should be good enough, at least till you step back and go back to ground speed 0 without the pressure of getting there and saying, do I really want to do that? And my final parting shot, of course, the PTS, as Doc hit on it earlier, he must have read my notes ahead of time. Now we have risk management. We're here to help, by the way, for the FAA. My part-time, I'm a volunteer for the IRS, so I do a lot of tax returns, and they're all here to help too. But anyway, we call it risk management nowadays. As Doc said, years ago, we just called it common sense. However, my screensaver on my computer at the office, can't see it down there. It sounds down on the bottom. It says common sense. It's so rare, it's a superpower. And I apologize, I couldn't find the original picture. This is when I bled out a little bit. That was the last one, at least as far as I know, the last flight clinic we held up at Shreveport. We held it in the bomber alert pad there at the base and parked everybody on the alert pad. So we had about 10 or 15 airplanes up there that day, all parked. Good flying. Okay, and like I said, I'll tell you right up front, I stole this from the FAA. Introduction to runway safety. Big thing is runway incursions nowadays. So the mandatory from the previous FAA administrator, got to have collaboration. Anything in safety requires collaboration. And all the way back in 2002, worrying about common markings. And they keep constantly changing the markings depending which airport you fly in. I mean, I've never done Dallas. I've done Atlanta Hartsville one time. That was an interesting experience. done BWI and a couple of those other places, but normally they make it cost prohibitive. So, you just have to really want to go there. I went there, I had a meeting right off the airport. My hotel was right off the airport. I said, what the heck, they made me buy this ADSB box. I'm going to use it. So, runway incursion. Anytime an airplane, a vehicle, or people get in the way, encroach in safety of a landing or intending to land. I don't know, when you're 1 mile out, I think you're probably landing, but the FAA has to separate it out there, intending to land versus actually landing. Anything inside of that mile that impedes that aircraft that's landing is by definition a runway incursion. Some of the historical runway incursions. Two 747s. I remember this accident. Two 747s out, Canary Islands. I couldn't remember which island it was. Cannot fog bank. One 747 taxis out on the runway, turns around. Other 747 taxis out, and they bang into each other. Why the second guy? I think the second guy thought the other guy was going to turn off on the north loop up there and get out of the way, but the guy just did a 180 and started taking off again. Chiang Kai-shek over in International. I've landed there in Taipei. Again, 747, heavy rain, typhoon. Not a fun time landing. In Italy, had the Citation with an MD-80. And the one I really love here, Mexico City, I have no idea how the airplane landed up next to the terminal, but trying to land on a closed runway. Obviously, somebody didn't read his NOTAMs, or she did not read the NOTAMs. And even down here in LA, commuter aircraft landed in front of a 737. And one of the other ones, I remember this one from Quincy International. Two airplanes on Towered Airport, one landing, one taking off. And when they did the review, the computer review, the landing aircraft was always right where the pillar was. So the pilot in the ATR never saw the other airplane landing because he was just, every time he moved, the other one came in, and that pillar just always sat right in the way going down that runway. Now, why the guy coming in for the landing couldn't see the other guy taking off, I don't know. What is true about all these accidents so far? Who's involved? Yeah, big guys. So, while Doc's going to blame us for our accident rate, yeah, big guys make their mistakes too, which is really kind of scary when you think about it. They're flying every day, every couple days, as opposed to us that fly once in a blue moon, and they still have the runway incursion errors. Up in Braden International, this was two general aviation aircraft, one guy taxiing out, went past the hold line, while another guy was landing. Close call here at Seattle-Tacoma, where the one guy landed ahead of the other guy taking off, and they told him to get off on the taxiway, so he did, and he crossed when 6 left in front of the other airplane, 100 feet. And same thing here, departing. Of course, we've now fixed this. We no longer can go to position and hold. We now have line up and wait, because that's solved this problem. The aircraft coming in, and he went right over the top of the guy that was there in holding position waiting. Sometimes you have to be careful on your own. I've been cleared for takeoff when we had an Aero Club at Barksdale with a buff on 1 mile final, because there's no way I could accelerate a little, I don't know if I was in a 172 that day or an Aero or whatever. Either way, I wasn't going to beat a buff that was coming in 130 knots on final. But Lakefront, when CAP was down at Lakefront before the hurricane, I landed on 18 left the one day. Now, this was before you had to get clearance to cross all the runways. And I landed. They said, where are you going? I said, CAP building. They said, Roger, cleared to taxi to the CAP building, which takes you right across 18 left. Now, I checked both ways. There wasn't anybody coming, but boy, did that tower get all of them upset when I crossed 18 left without their supposed permission. I said, well, first of all, hold the tape. And secondly, you cleared me to taxi to the CAP building from my present location. Their response was, Roger, continue taxi. So, but anytime, even before they had now we have to get permission to cross another runway, I always check both ways because people make mistakes. They're controllers. They're people. They occasionally make mistakes. And remember the old adage, what happens when the pilot screws up? He dies. What happens when the controller screws up? The pilot dies, yeah. So DFW, same type of thing here, crossing lots of taxiways, and Lord knows DFW is not a logically laid out taxiway system. He came off, they told him to turn on taxiway 2F, he did, and he went back onto the runway because he turned too far. Instead of at a slight angle, he turned almost a 180-degree angle and came back on the runway. And of course, somebody was taking off on that other runway. And landing phase, just to show you, you're clear to cross as long as they're a mile final. Of course, you don't know if they're a mile final. Well, you kind of can if you have A as B. But if they're inside that mile, you need to stop because you're not going to be cleared to cross that runway. You'll have a runway incursion. And same thing with takeoff clearance. If they're on the roll, you got to stop. If they're holding short or position and hold, you can then go ahead and clear across the runway. And again, a lot of runways are not, we cleared up the instrument approaches with new approaches for the GPS, made them all look like T's for the most part, cleared some of that confusion up, but we're never going to clear up the concrete and all the crossing runways and the weirdest, weird taxiways and all those kind of things that come in. When was this base built? No, this one. No, that's I don't know where that is. Anybody guess where it was built? When it was built?
World War II.
Sure. Standard World War II. All your maintenance facilities, runway, and the third runway used to be here. That's led to some of the problems because of the tail draggers. In World War II, most of our bases got built, or at least got started. They were built with 3 runways, so you didn't have major crosswind problems. Therefore, they've added to some of the confliction between where the taxiways go now that we're starting to cut down those runways. I mean, Shreveport has a runway that goes right over or used to have a runway that goes right over the skyscrapers in Shreveport. They've since closed that runway and put hangars on it. But it was a World War II base, so you didn't have a lot of crosswind. And I hate to tell Scott, but I'd have to spend half my time in my bag digging to find a stopwatch. This one doesn't have a round dial on it. My favorite example, my sister's home airport, Charlotte International. And they usually bring you in right over here because over here is the general aviation ramp. But once or twice I've had to land way over here and it's a mile. And then if they bring you in long, now you got to weave your way all through here. And invariably you eventually get confused. Even with the printout in front of you, you get confused as to where you are. It's real easy. So what do you do when you get confused? You bet. How well does that work? Personal example, I was going into, back when I wasn't a terrorist, and I could land at Reagan International in Washington, D.C., I was going in there, and I've been following thunderstorms all day. So my flight took considerably longer than I had planned, and instead of getting there about 4 in the afternoon, I was getting there at 8 o'clock at night. It was getting dark in a rainstorm. And so I did the ILS approach going in there, landed, got off the runway. I said, okay, I'm exhausted. I have the taxiway diagram, but I'm not really sure where I'm going. Tower, request progressive. Roger, turn left, go down taxiway such and such. So I turned, went, and I said, looked at the taxiway diagram. I said, okay, I think I ought to be turning there. And I looked ahead, and there's the Potomac as the only thing in front of me. So being the studious pilot that I was, I stopped and said, 71 Alpha, tower or ground, where should I turn? Where are you? Where are you? They had totally, in the 30 seconds or whatever it was, it took me to taxi from where I got off to where I was, they had totally forgotten that I had asked for progressive taxi. So while they are there to help, occasionally they mess up. If you're on an instrument flight and you lose your gyro instruments, what do you do?
Declare an emergency.
Okay, declare an emergency and do what?
Apply partial payment.
You're supposed to tell them what instruments you've lost, and then if you're going to shoot an instrument approach, what kind of instrument approach do you ask for? No gyro approach, you bet. Back when I had vacuum instruments in my airplane, for whatever reason, the vacuum ran fine, the directional gyro rolled over and died on me that day. So I did all those nice things, and my response from Shreveport approach was unable. Yeah. Fortunately, that day I knew the ceilings were about 1,500 feet, so I found myself a hole, went down underneath, and made it home. But yeah, a little bit of help from FAA sometimes is not coming at it very well. Okay, back to the majors again. This is St. Louis International Airport. That's the big airport. So like DFW, I've never landed here. I've landed a couple of the other airports when I go up there to the Boeing facilities. In 4 years, they had interruptions of 1,800. There we go. They had 900 runway crossings per day, and in that 4 years, they had 338. I'll get it right. 38 incursions. Now, I did the public math to avoid it here. I put it at the bottom of the screen. 38 incursions. In those 4 years, they would have had 1.24 million crossings, which is a 0.003% error rate. But that's what we're fighting, 0.003%, to make sure that we don't get those runway incursions. And of course, these guys, like DFW, I'm sure probably 99% of their traffic is commercial or at least corporate pilot, flying in with Learjets and things of that nature, not guys flying in their Cessna 172. Like I said, there's too many other small airports around St. Louis. Okay, so runway incursions, though, are not all created equal. We have 5 variations there, all the way from Category D all the way up to you pranged into somebody. And they just have a nice little mantra here. As you can see here, there can happen to anybody. I have no idea what kind of airplane this is. Obviously a big one based on the gear and the engine cowl. I assume those are engine cowls, not body pieces. Same thing here, probably a 747 again. While we always talk, because we're worried about us having the runway incursion, remember that you can have it with a vehicle or a person out there when somebody parks their vehicle in the wrong place. And this happened at a Towered Airport. That's that other accident again. Now, this is the one I really like. It was a wildlife. Now, first of all, I've seen aircraft get hit with deer and hawks and eagles and things like that. I've never seen one take out a Learjet this badly until I started looking at this accident. You can't really tell from back there, but this is a double-lane highway. So I think this Learjet probably had some problems. It looks like there looks like there's some Mars lights up here and a runway lighting up there in the corner. So I suspect this Learjet had a few other problems besides hitting a deer when it crossed the runway. But they're blaming this in this accident, the FAA is blaming it on the deer. Who might argue with the FAA? And my favorite one, just in case everybody thinks that this is a civilian-only problem. Officially, I do not have this picture. I have no idea where it came from. That is a 700-gallon tip tank of a B-52. The crew was out there to pick up the drag chute, and somehow the truck was not, well, obviously the truck wasn't parked in the right place, and they managed to put the 700-gallon tip tank through the back of the bread truck. Now, I don't know who gets credit for this one, whether the pilot for running into the vehicle. I suspect not, but it was nighttime, white truck, and they still managed to put the tip tank through the back of the vehicle. Any questions on runway incursions? How many people planned? How many people that flew in had this with them? Okay, good. Good. Anytime I go anywhere, my EFIS has one, my iPad has one, and I still carry a paper copy because, again, I wouldn't be paranoid if everybody wasn't against me. Okay, so good, bad, the ugly. I passed out note sheets for you to take notes. These are short, about 5-minute videos. Hopefully they'll show up okay.
dear.
Hi.
What you got?
New toys, my dear. New toys.
Ooh, and expensive too, no doubt.
But of course. But then again, nothing but the best for old TJ and his bride. Yeah, not bad. George can eat his heart out, huh?
Oh, TJ, you know George will just find something to buy that you don't have.
Yeah, well, what can I say?
By the way, dear, you haven't forgotten that you're scheduled to speak at that convention in Memphis tomorrow, have you?
Right. Thanks for reminding me. I better go check weather. What time is it?
Oh, it's after 2.
Oh, God.
You sleep. You gotta fly in the morning. I'll get Jenny.
All right. Thanks, babe.
You didn't need that, did you?
Oh. Well, not really, but I'll be okay. I'll just get some more coffee, check on my final weather briefing, and then get out of here. Now, let me just check this out. You know, this program is great. It really makes English out of these weather briefings. Now, let me see here. Oh,
What?
no, weather hasn't changed much from last night. 300-foot ceilings, scattered embedded thunder showers, basically lousy weather. I guess I'm gonna have to file IFR.
Is that a problem?
No, not with my Bonanza. I mean, I'm instrument rated now. Besides, I've been doing a lot of flying, getting checked out. I mean, I bought the best state-of-the-art avionics. I got a fully coupled autopilot. I've got an HSI. I've even got storm detection equipment. So,
HSI, what's that?
it's a horizontal situation indicator. It's a, well, it simplifies IFR flying. Let's leave it at that.
I'm impressed, dear. I just want you to get home safely. Jenny needs her daddy, you know?
I'll be fine. I'll be just fine.
ATIS information X-ray 1300 Zulu weather, measured ceiling 300 overcast, visibility 3/4 fog, temperature 64, dew point 64, wind 280 at 10, altimeter 2985, IFR clearance available on frequency 125.2.
Clearance delivery. This is Bonanza 3170 Tango with X-ray IFR to Memphis.
Bonanza 3170 Tango, clearance cleared to the Memphis airport is filed, maintain 3000, expect 10,010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 119.3, squawk 1352.
Bonanza 3170 Tango, cleared to Memphis Airport as filed, maintain 3000, expect 10,010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 1193, squawk code 1352.
Bonanza 70 Tango, read that correct. Have a good flight.
Ground control, this is Bonanza 3170 Tango with X-ray on the west ramp, ready to taxi.
Bonanza 70 Tango, ground taxi runway 20, confirm you have X-ray.
Okay, let's see here. Radios and transponder checked and set. Mixture full rich. Flight controls are free. Instruments normal and set. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, flaps checked and set. Electric trim checked and set. I gotta hand it to you, TJ. This baby really runs smooth. Throttle at 1700 RPM. Mags checked and on both. Flaps checked. Doors and windows closed and locked. Parking brake is off. Tower, this is Bonanza 3170 Tango, ready for departure on runway 20 left.
Bonanza 70 Tango, turn right, heading 270, clear for takeoff.
Bonanza 3170 Tango, clear for takeoff.
Bonanza 70 Tango, contact departure.
70 Tango. Tower, this is Bonanza 3170 Tango. Say departure frequency again, please.
Bonanza 70 Tango, departure frequency 119.3.
70 Tango. Departure, this is Bonanza 3170 Tango. With you, level at 3000.
Bonanza 70 Tango. Clearance. Climb and maintain 5,000. Report reaching 5,000.
Bonanza 3170 Tango. Climbing to 5000. Will report when reaching.
Bonanza 70 Tango. Stay heading.
Bonanza 3170 Tango. I'm showing 270. Oh man, my attitude indicator died. I don't have an autopilot either. Oh, that must have been what that tone was all about.
Bonanza 70 Tango. I show you tracking heading 300. Turn 30 degrees left.
70 Tango. Let's see, 3 degrees a second. Oh man, I wish my instructor had spent more time with this partial panel stuff.
Bonanza 70 Tango. Stay heading.
Bonanza 3170 Tango. Oh man, I got a problem here. Both my autopilot and my attitude indicator have failed.
Bonanza 70 Tango. Do you wish to declare an emergency?
He correctly identified the airplane, okay?
Drove a nice car.
Hmm?
Drove a nice car.
Okay. Okay.
Check the weather.
Okay, that's a big thing. He actually did check the weather. And
Any follow-up?
while I would follow the weather a little questionable based on what little bit we heard, he decided his personal minimums, that was good enough for today. Spent a lot of money. See, that's my big thing that he did right. He was flying a Bonanza. Not that I'm biased or anything. Okay, what did he do that was bad?
He was tired.
Mm-hmm.
Too
Overdue sleep.
much coffee.
Overconfident in his airplane, really.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Overconfident in his airplane. Because remember he said, well, I've just flown it a lot. So, but obviously he flew it a lot with everything working. So bad on his instructor. What did he do that was bad?
He didn't identify.
I'm sorry, what?
He didn't have his trucks ready for full free.
Okay.
He didn't identify the role. He didn't look. He wasn't skating.
Didn't know what to do partial panel. Never, at least by what we saw in the video, never looked at the vacuum system. He never acknowledged that it was a vacuum problem, so he could then divert to.
Well, he wasn't watching the airplane fly.
Right. Yes. Yeah. He was counting totally on Mach 1 autopilot.
Well, you notice he didn't use a actual checklist at the run-up. He was reading it before he taxied out,
Yes.
but he didn't use an actual checklist.
And that was one of the things I noticed. His checklist was usage was very spotty. It was like he was going a lot from memory, which Even though like I said, I got a couple thousand hours in my airplane, I still use that checklist because proficiency, currency, all those things factor into it. And again, the more complex the airplane, the G1000s or whatever, the more you need that checklist because the more things you need to check than a six-pack. I mean, one of the things that for airworthiness, I have to check the batteries of my EFISes every flight. So just to remember to do little things like that so that if I lose power, my EFISes will run for another hour to 2 hours afterwards. Okay, I looked on the autopilot. I stopped the video on the autopilot. On my autopilot, there is a stabilization mode, so I can at least get wings level. I could not see on that autopilot, I don't know what one he had in there. It did not seem to have a stab mode. I saw, flight director and nav mode and heading mode. I did not see just a, wing level mode.
King 200.
Is that what it was? Okay. Where even my first Bonanza had a Britain autopilot. Now, it was, quote, autopilot, was a wing leveler, but at least I could turn that on and reach while I was going for charts and do that kind of stuff to help me out a little bit. Now, that one ran off the vacuum system. I'm not sure why the King evidently must run off the vacuum system.
Yeah, because it was attitude-based, yeah.
Okay. So that's why. So if you lose your attitude indicator, well, my autopilot, while it's electric, if I lose my turn coordinator, it goes Tango uniform. Okay, so we have the G1000. How many other CAP airplanes do we have in the wing that have a GPS and an autopilot? Any other one? We didn't when I was the wing maintenance officer, but that's why I don't know if we... One of the things I always warn my students of with an autopilot, find out what happens to that autopilot. Before you ever touch the autopilot or the GPS, put the autopilot in a heading mode. That way, if you screw up putting something into the GPS wrong, the autopilot's not zinging along with that GPS. The other thing is to learn what does that autopilot do when the GPS goes stupid. I broke lock on my old King 89B the one night over Atlanta, Georgia in the IFR, and I'm just flying along fat, dumb, and happy, and all of a sudden the GPS breaks lock for whatever reason, I don't know, and all of a sudden my autopilot goes stupid because I had the autopilot tied to the GPS. That's the only time I tie my autopilot to the GPS now is when I'm on final approach on an instrument approach. Otherwise, it stays in heading mode the whole time. But again, learning what happens when my autopilot goes stupid, it's a great tool, but obviously he needed a little bit more partial panel work.
So this personal experience,
Sure.
Bonanza with a King 200.
Bonanza.
One of those airplanes.
Yes.
So autopilot, and because it was a attitude based.
Okay.
When the gyro failed and the attitude indicator went like this.
Right. The autopilot went right along with it. Yep.
So you had like that fast to get it disconnected
Yeah.
and get back to wings level.
So I said I'm very nervous about putting my autopilot into anything other than the heading mode. And especially, like I said, when I'm over here fiddling with the G, trying to get a procedure approach in there, direct to here, that. No, I want that autopilot just straight and level, straight ahead till I get, once I'm on final or I've turned on base to final on an instrument approach, then I'll engage the autopilot. But other than that, I just leave it in the heading mode, and I've got because I have GPPS steering. You want to watch just go out fly VFR sometime with GPPS steering, have the deflection bar out about 5 dots, and put in GPS steering. And watch that airplane to go, because it wants to center up that needle in that GPPS steering. So all sorts of GPS has done a lot of good things, but it's added little bit of complexity to some of these things.
You going when? Next weekend?
Yeah.
Dottie, hi. Sarah. Did Don tell you the guys were going hunting next weekend? Yeah, I just found out too. Listen, what do you say we get Meg and Joan and get a plane and fly up to Gatlinburg? The fall colors will be at their peak and we can get some shopping in at the Outlet Mall in Pigeon Forge. Good. You call Meg and I'll call Joan. We can meet at the airport about 7:30. Nah, let them get their own breakfast. Okay. Bye. Yeah.
Dottie, how could you come?
I wouldn't miss this for the world. I told Don he could go hunting. I'm going shopping.
Eat your heart out, Don.
Say, Sarah, how long have you been flying? I've never been up in a little airplane before.
Oh, I've logged about 300 hours in my logbook. Walt got me started when he had me take a pinch hitter course. So if he had a heart attack or something, I could land the plane. But I really got into it. Sometimes I think I'm a better pilot than he is.
I really admire you being able to fly this plane.
Oh, Joan, you could do it. I know you could. Good.
Oh, I'm not good with anything mechanical.
Hey, have y'all heard the one about the lady who walked backward off the bus?
No, what?
Well, she heard that someone behind her said that he was going to grab her seat when she got up.
Meg, you're too much.
Oh, have you heard about the New York cab driver?
Check this, please.
Okay, well, the cab driver had a fare, and when it was a red light, and they got caught at the intersection. You know what they...
Meg, could you move your seat up a little bit? My legs won't make it all the way to Tennessee like this.
Oh, how's that?
Wonderful.
Okay,
Sarah, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready to start the engine, Meg. Clear prop!
Sarah, what are you doing now?
I'm just checking the way the engine runs on each of its two mags.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Meg, let's get into the air.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder. Off we go. Oh, my God, we're going to die.
Meg, will you shut up? We're going to be just fine.
Oh, what's that noise?
It was the stall warning horn. We just have a full load, that's all. I can't climb as fast as I'm used to.
I should have stayed on my diet.
You did, Dottie, you did.
Thanks.
Sarah, when you going to finish all this scribbling so we can get out of here? You didn't do all this before this morning's flight.
Yes, I did. I just did it before you guys got to the airport. With the 100 pounds of stuff we bought, it looks like we're going to be right on the edge of the envelope.
Edge of the envelope? What does that mean?
When you figure weight and balance, you want the results to show that you're within safe limits.
Safe limits? You mean the plane might not fly?
Come on, y'all. It's hot out here. Let's go.
I'm not worried about the plane flying. I just want it to handle right. It's a pretty small engine for 4 people and all the junk we bought.
All the junk is what we ate count to?
Everything counts, but I think we're going to be okay.
Come on, Sarah, let's get out of Dodge.
I'll be right out. My goodness, we bought a lot of stuff.
I love it.
I hope we can fit it all in the plane.
Oh, we can get all in. I'm gonna carry this one on my lap.
Yeah, me too.
Sure is hot.
That's because we shot until we dropped.
Right.
Is it time to go?
Let's go.
For
I
all
hope
that.
we can fit everything in here.
We don't have to throw Joan out. I'm getting my stuff in first. Come on.
All right.
You said that little bag.
Got this bag and then that bag, and I've got all this stuff in here. Ugh.
Whoa. Okay, is that it?
Sarah, where are we anyway?
Just coming up to Lake Rayburn.
Isn't the hunting cabin somewhere around here?
Yeah, I think I know where it is.
Hey, let's buzz the guy.
Yeah, let's buzz them good.
Buzzing is illegal, ladies.
Oh.
Oh, look, there it is.
There, on the point.
You're right. Oh, I wish we could buzz him. Can't we do something?
Well, hang on, and I'll do some tight turns.
All right.
One of the 2 things I forgot to mention on the last one, I really liked the guy wearing the sunglasses going to the 300-foot overcast.
Yeah,
The other thing is, and it would have been tough to notice, but he switched over to tower frequency, but never put the departure frequency then in the standby, which, again, I try to teach all my students. Never leave the ground without every one of those spots filled with something that's usable. Otherwise, you're behind the airplane, and obviously he was. So he'd reach back in the back seat trying to find whatever he did with that frequency. Okay, so. Yes. So what did the ladies do that was good? Not a damn thing. Okay.
She got trained in case something happened to her husband. Just the fact that she got trained.
Okay, yep, she had just gotten her training. What, 300 hours, she said? Just enough to feel smart?
You kind of got it after the fact that she did pre-flight or did
Yeah.
something
Version of it.
What? Yeah. What was wrong with her pre-flight?
She was distracted.
Yeah. Get those passengers. I always leave the passengers in the terminal, let them stay cool, so they're not distracting me.
Apparently she didn't brief them up because the lady said, "This is my first time here."
Yeah. No briefing. What about as they were taxiing out? What did she?
There was no sterile cockpit.
Yeah, no stroke. You have the lady that's never flown before, who's, frankly, I would have kicked out the door because she was annoying me so much, with the door open. Because they left the door open while they taxied out. Again, with somebody not knowing who's in that right seat, I never taxi with that door open. Because I don't want to make sure that, since they don't know how to close that, I want to make sure it's closed before I start the engine. Again, this is a holdover from my old Bonanza where the door occasionally would pop open if you didn't just shut it just right. So I got in the habit of getting that door closed before. Okay, what did they do that was bad?
Distracting in flight, no headsets.
No headsets? But nutty as that sounds, I got into CAP here in Louisiana in 1995. My wife and I were the only ones that flew with headsets. That was a new and novel concept back in 95, even here in Louisiana. Okay, so anyway, back to the... Yep, a little bit of peer pressure. They didn't talk anything about if she was so close to weight and balance. First of all, it bothered me when she says what about weight and balance? We're close to the limit, but I think we're okay. Really? That's a yes. That's a binary decision. How much of that may not be PC these days. You're either are within limits or you're not. And what could she have done if she felt she was overweight? Yeah, don't have to fill the tanks. Adjust how much, or don't fill the airplane until you come back and see how much stuff you bought, and then fill the airplane. I can tell you can cram a lot of stuff into a Piper. I had a friend going, I forget where they were going, somewhere down in the Florida Panhandle, and I literally stood on the wing of the airplane pushing the door closed because they had 4 people and every square inch in there was packed with something. But I did their weight and balance and double checked them because I wasn't going to let them go without it, and they were within weight and balance, but they needed a little help pushing that door closed from the outside. And I've done that myself with a Lance. That was a 6-seat. We had the 4 people in the airplane and every nook and cranny filled with stuff. But we were within weight and balance. Also, my longest flight, 6.5 hours in a little general aviation airplane. Needless to say, as soon as that propeller stopped up in Marquette, Michigan, we were all ran for base ops because we had higher needs than parking the airplane. Okay, so what else did she do? Let's see. No, I didn't see any seatbelts or shoulder harnesses. Of course, in that era, Piper may not have had shoulder harnesses. Mine left the factory without shoulder harnesses in it. I think I looked for an airplane. Oh, yeah, the stall speed goes from about 50 knots, what I think that airplane is, up into the 60 to 61 knot range with a 45-degree bank. And fully loaded, high-density altitude, performance, I don't know which Piper exactly that was. I think it was probably one of their 180s, but still, it's not exactly. The stall warning horn was letting her know, and that comes on, just before you get to stall, and it was just blaring constantly. So that means she wasn't going this way; she was going this way with the airspeed. And again, that's where AOAs are a little bit nicer. I have one in my airplane, but stall warning horn and airspeed still. AOAs are good if you're trying to get into a short field, to get really the max. Otherwise, yeah. Okay. Lastly.
treat that stuff I ate.
Okay, that's about enough. You two can leave the table.
And I better see you do your homework when I come upstairs.
Yes,
You
Mom.
got that? I swear they wear me out.
I know the feeling. I wish I had half their energy.
Say, isn't tomorrow the day that you go up to that benefit at Harbor Place?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so. And pick up your good suit at the cleaners
Yeah,
today.
thanks. Yeah, the benefit's tomorrow evening. I sure wish you were going, too.
I know. So do I. But you know, I made that commitment to be at the neighborhood board meeting. I'm afraid we're going to have quite a fight on our hands, too.
Well, if anyone can handle it, you can. Oh, I checked the weather. I think I'm going to fly into BWI this time. It'll save me a lot of time.
Baltimore is quite a step up from our little Maryland airport. Are you sure you can handle it?
Oh, sure. I admit I've never flown in Class B airspace before, but as long as I do what the controllers tell me to do, I shouldn't have any trouble.
Well, just tell them you're from the country and that you don't know any better.
Yeah, right. Oh, say, how about some ice cream?
Okay, with or without the kids?
Without.
Roger 5,000 at 120. Yes, sir, 2123. West 1044, flight present heading, descend and maintain 10,000. Present heading in 10,000, Northwest 1044. 3968, coming Harrisburg, 124.1.
Baltimore approach. This is Cherokee 8294 Whiskey.
Cherokee 8294 Whiskey, Baltimore approach.
8294 Whiskey. It's 30 miles southeast, landing BWI with information Tango.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, squawk 0437, say altitude.
Niner 4 Whiskey, 5,500 feet.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, radar contact 32 miles southeast of Baltimore. Fly heading 320, descend and maintain 3,000.
Niner 4 Whiskey, roger.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, turn left heading 310 and expedite descent to 3,000.
Niner 4 Whiskey, roger.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, turn left heading 300, descend and maintain 1,500. The airport 12 o'clock, 10 miles, reported in sight.
Niner 4 Whiskey, roger. Say the altitude to go to.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, descend and maintain 1,500.
Niner 4 Whiskey, roger. Approach. Niner 4 Whiskey has the airport.
Cherokee 904 Whiskey, roger. Enter left base, runway 15 left. Contact tower 119.4.
Runway 15 left, roger. Tower, Niner 4 Whiskey, with you for runway 15 left.
Whiskey, Baltimore Tower, runway 15 left is closed. Make left traffic, runway 10. Your number 2 for the airport. Traffic is a Boeing 727 on a 4-mile final for runway 15 right. Caution wake turbulence. Maintain present speed until 2-mile final, and you're cleared to land runway 10. Hold short of runway 15 right.
Niner 4 Whiskey, roger. Hold short of 15 right.
Turn left there, contact ground point Niner. US Air 703, runway 15 right, clear for takeoff. US Air 703, roll it.
So, what did he do good?
Took us away for ice cream.
What's that?
Took his wife out for ice cream.
Took his wife out for ice cream. That's always, if she's not happy, you're not happy. What else? Did he do anything else good? Okay. How about what did he do bad?
Radio calls are terrible.
Overconfident and unprepared.
Overconfident, unprepared. Yeah. First time ever in Class B airspace, and and did it at night. At night. Yep.
He didn't repeat the instructions on the radio.
That was one thing I always noticed. Anytime ATC gave him a clearance, he just Roger. That's not kosher?
At the time this was made, that was a fairly standard practice.
Okay.
If you were VFR, that's true.
Yeah, VFR, yes, that's true. Good point. Okay.
One other point, for this local area, whatever, if you're here,
right,
going into New Orleans as a Class B is
right,
not a Class B.
Oh no. Yeah, New Orleans is a piece of cake. I've been into BWI. It's a little busy and very congested airspace up there. I'll be honest, I grew up in Pennsylvania and was not flying at that time. I didn't realize how congested or condensed, I should say, the East Coast is until the first time I flew up to Boston, and I'm on the eastern edge of New York State with my GPS set out to land at Boston, and it's less than the distance from Shreveport to Monroe. Across the entire state of Massachusetts, long ways. Narrow ways, it's even worse. But yeah, so Class B airspace at night that didn't read back attracting me. But that, like you said, that could be just the era this video happened to be made. What else?
We definitely got a detailed clearance, so he didn't write anything down.
Right.
Somewhere in there, you're not using instruments to help back up future headings and stuff
Right.
like that.
It gets tougher. Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys I know, if they get switched runways, they'll quick dial up the ILS or the localizer or something to that just to give them an offset to look at, especially if you don't have GPS on board. What's that? He did not refuse the LOTSO. That's right. That was his biggest thing. Okay. No, I didn't see any checklists. Of course, again, that could be just the biggest thing I saw was that little Jeppesen chart that he had for the entire airport to see exactly where the runways were. Really tough to look at. Plus, he did it with a white light. Now, what did that do to his night vision going out there? And obviously never bothered for whatever reason. Again, doesn't make sense, but again, throwing off the runway and where he's going, he never bothered to slow down. So, anything else?
Yeah, his heading indicator and compass weren't. So
What?
He had precession, didn't catch the precession.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine trying to go into BWI or any Class B airport like that first time at night. Ooh. You know, night is one of the things I do with all my students for their night flight is I take them from Shreveport to Longview. Because just to show them how difficult that is, because Longview, the runway, is aligned with the interstate. So trying to figure out at nighttime where that runway is versus the interstate, it gives them a good lesson as to how to look for the runways and see what's going on. But anyway, why we're all here? Just a reminder, that was taken by a CAP airplane, 2005, Katrina. That was one of our flights down there in August and September, trying to short out. And again, now imagine doing this. I don't know how many people were around for that. We had no air traffic control because that had all been wiped out. We had a Hawkeye, Navy Hawkeye overhead that was trying to sort of play air traffic control. But basically the helicopters owned everything 1,000 feet and below. We owned everything 1,000 feet to 1,500. And they were taking the helicopters out underneath us over Pontchartrain, and they had a Hawkeye tanker to refuel the helicopters over Pontchartrain at 2,500 feet. And basically we did a lot of photo work like this. When we'd see somebody trapped on a roof, we'd call the Hawkeye. The Hawkeye then would bring the helicopter in underneath us. Somewhere I couldn't find it because my CD-ROM went bad on my Katrina pictures. We have a picture of the top of a helicopter because he came in underneath us while we were out there searching during Katrina.